What's up, guys? Weekly Piano here. It has been a long time since I've done a live lesson. I'm so sorry that, one second. I'm so sorry that it's taken me this long. I thought I'd be able to be better about it on tour, and I definitely wasn't. I was, uh, just bogged down like every single day. We were playing a show every night, traveling every day to a different country, almost 6 nights a week usually. I was with Makai McCraven for some of it, and then with my own group Spirit Fingers, and then with Nubia Garcia for a little bit. And between those three things, the summer just was insane, completely nonstop. Anyway, I'm testing this. I'm using an iPad right now to record this, and it's obviously it's not even, so I'm gonna fix this right now. This is the new tiny room studio that I'm working out of. I've collaborated with an organization called The Dock, which happens to be across the street from my old studio. And hey, what's up, Eden Lee? It's good to see you too. Um, it's really good to be back doing this. There's a good question. Oh, this is interesting. So it looks different to me on the iPad than it does to you on this screen. So I'm going to try to adjust this based on how it looks on my computer screen. All right, how's that for everybody? That's pretty good. Not perfect. Yeah, I think that's going to be okay. It's like wobbling a little bit. Just a bit more. I'm so excited. People are showing up. We got 9 viewers so far. Lovely. Yeah, so the summer was really wild. That wobbling should stop pretty soon. It's on a thing that's like, it's so funny. It's this new little apparatus I have for the recording. But at least you can see me here in the new studio. Yeah. Okay, super clicks are enabled. Got it. Okay, I'm seeing your comments now. And we're just going to get right to it. We're going to talk about Herbie Hancock a little bit today. A lot of people ask me about that because Herbie's been a sort of mentor and guide and teacher to me for a long time now, like 11 years. I just saw him last Sunday at a thing we call Kosen Rufu Gongyo. It's part of our Buddhist organization. We practice the same Buddhism, which Herbie introduced me to about when I first met him, actually. He's a very inspiring person to me, and I've a lot of the deeper aspects of my playing I draw from his guidance, that refers to both playing and life. It sort of refers to life first before playing usually, and that's what this this question that Steve Barnett was asking is about. So I'm just going to read his question. He says, in a couple of videos, Herbie Hancock talks about his time with Miles Davis and being told not to play the butter notes. In another video, I heard someone say Miles was grumbling, don't play the better notes. Then, in another talk about Miles and guitarist John Scofield, it is rumored that he told Sco he needs to play the butter notes or better notes. Now, what I've tried to piece together is Herbie was playing too inside and Miles wanted him to play more color tones and was telling Sco to do the opposite and play simpler voicings. Interesting. Those simpler voicings aren't always lacking in color. So then he says, so can you talk about Herbie's comping and what tones he tended to use and ones that he would edit out for his sound? Okay, so I actually have a good answer to this one. I don't always have good answers, but this one Herbie talked to me directly about, and he told me this story. And yes, Miles was grumbling, and Herbie didn't. What Herbie told me in person was that he didn't understand exactly what Miles was saying, and he had to interpret what he was saying. He thought maybe he said the butter notes. It was like, the butter notes, what's that? And maybe it was the better notes, or something else. But whatever it was, Herbie thought about it and decided that his his best interpretation of it was maybe butter notes. And if Miles was saying butter notes, what are butter notes? And butter notes could mean like the tasty notes that are easy, the fat, the which he interpreted as chord tones at that point. So like 1, 3, and 5, right? So those are the 1, 3, 5, 7. The butter notes, at least what Herbie explained to me in the conversation I had with him, was the he interpreted that as chord tones, and that were very specific and like easy for the ear to grasp where you were, which would be the 3, like the 3 and the 7. And if you didn't want to do the butter notes, and mind you, this is the interpretation of this is almost, it's actually not the point of the story. The point is that Miles pressed Herbie to change something and open his mind to explore a different thread of possibility with the music, which is what Herbie's entire existence is based around. And it's because of the lineage from Miles, because that's also what Miles was doing. But anyway, if it was Miles saying the butter notes, then instead of doing 1, 3, 5, you could do maybe keep the 4 and the 5, or actually no, take the 3 and make it to the 2, and keep the 5, and then maybe put the 6 down there instead of the 1. So instead of like an obvious triad there, I mean Herbie would have just played an obvious triad anyway, but he would have played a common voicing, like major 9 voicing stacked with that. But instead, if you play this, it's more vague, and you can do more things with that chord structure, because now you have the freedom to make this. This could be a number of different things. It could be wait, let me make sure that my live stream is still going, because my screen just went dark. Yep, still going. Okay, so this could be a number of different things, which could be a 13, could be like, right? That could be the 13 chord, it could be the major 6 chord, it could be a minor 13, it could be a sus4. But if you just play these 3 notes, then whatever you play up here, you have the freedom to explore and superimpose different things, which is another thing Herbie does, is superimpose triads to get different colors. But if you don't even superimpose the triads, you're now in a space that is like lifted above the ground. You're sort of suspended in harmonic midair, and you can do things like that works, or you could go like, which that first one that I did was make a melodic minor over E. Over E flat, and then the second one I did was just play an A flat minor triad. You can play that, you can do that, like that's a color you could use, which is just a G with the minor and the major third superimposed over that chord. That's like a sharp 5 thing. You like, you hear like the standard. Sort of going off on a tangent now. And what that allowed Herbie to do was to expand his harmonic vocabulary to go in a bunch of different places by not playing the butter notes, which are the notes that are easy to digest. Butter's not easy to digest, but it's like tasty. And so the tasty notes being the ones that define the chord. So now let's think about that in terms of if we were playing If I Were a Bell. So if I were to play very strict harmonic vocabulary, like that which Miles was maybe telling Herbie to not do, it would be like, um, okay, now if I were to open that up and not play the chord tones as much, it would be like, well, it's a little hard to do, to explain actively when I don't have a bass player playing, but the comping and the soloing could be more like, you'll have to keep the structure with me. That's the beginning of the form again there. So you can hear very clearly the difference, and personally, I prefer the latter. And you know, the bebop vocabulary is based around outlining chord tones, like. You know, that's bebop, and then Miles was pushing beyond bebop at the point. He was pushing the era into the next situation, the next sound that jazz would be, and that's sort of like, you know, Miles did the bebop thing. I mean, he wasn't like the greatest bebop player, but he did the bebop thing, and he was pushing beyond that and exploring. And so if you want to push beyond that, one of the most immediate ways is to take out the chord tones, like what I was just doing, and then you're using elements of things like what both Miles and Herbie were really into at the time, which is contemporary classical music. Like Herbie draws a lot from Bartók, for example, and Miles drew a lot from Schoenberg. And with those elements of music, you're pulling away from the traditional bebop vocabulary, and so that's what that was about. I hope that answers your question. I'm gonna leave this up. I don't know if Steve Barnett is on here right now. Which, by the way, you have the same name as somebody from a record label that I think I knew once, Steve Barnett. Anyway, okay, so the next one is, oh, Roman, you're probably watching right now, but you didn't ask a question. So if you want to ask a question, you can ask it here. Tourtog, I see you on there. Good to see you too. Eden, you have a question. Somebody said play something cool. I hope one of those things I just played was cool. Alright, but Eden's question, I'm a beginner jazz student with classical background. May I ask you a question? until I got to the point where intermediate level, is it okay to practice all the diatonic inversion of the seventh? Is it okay to practice all the diatonic of inversion in seventh? I'm not sure I understand what you're talking about. So you have your diatonic. So this would be your diatonic C major scale. But then you're talking about practice that in seventh. I'm not sure if you're talking about the major seventh or the dominant, or if you're talking about like moving it in sevenths. Like doing. That's probably not what you're talking about. So you'll have to clarify your question a little bit, and if you do it right now, I'll try to answer it. Yeah. In the meantime, I'm gonna riff a little bit more on that. Oh, you know what? I wonder actually if I can play If I Were a Bell on from my iReal book. I might be able to do that. So then I can play you the If I Were a Bell thing with a bass line going. You'll be able to understand a little bit more. Alright, here's a good question. Jay, why is it a rule to only have the third and sevenths at the bottom of chord voicings? They say it's a rule, but it's not really a rule. A lot of people, as soon as you get into chordal voicings, it's like you could do, so the 1 is the bottom of this voicing, the 2 is the bottom of this voicing, the 3 is the bottom of this voicing, the 5, 6, and the 7. Any of those voicing, like any of the notes of the scale could actually be the bottom of the voicing. If you're comping for yourself, let's say an F blues. So I guess for that first one, I'm using the 7th at the bottom, but I don't have to. If I wanted to make that sus, I could use the 6 at the bottom of the chord voicing, or the 1, or the 2, or a chordal voicing with the 2 at the bottom, or the flat 2. Any of those are possible. So it's not really, that's a fun thing that academics sometimes say, to try to create a rule that's very simple so that you can try to like stick to something all the time, but it's not actually the case. If you look at people's playing, look at people's left hand, look at Herbie's left hand when he's comping. That was also in that previous little bit that I was talking about, when Herbie's playing, another aspect in that same conversation that he told me was he generally only uses 3-note voicings. So like that would be a good voicing for F. Even if you're an F major, you don't play the 3, he doesn't play the 3, because then you can superpose. It just opens up for a lot more freedom. So that's that is stuff that's like airs a little more on the side of what Herbie would do, just given this stuff that he told me in that particular conversation. Thanks Roman, you showed up. I'm glad you're here. Let's see what else we got. All right, Tortog, is that right? Tortog? I've heard you talk about you're practicing scales at a metronome of 40 beats per minute to learn them. What you do as an equivalent for learning chord families and their inversions? Oh, that's a good question. Here's the thing, you gotta be careful about what you spend your time on. So when I was first learning, when I first got to college, I couldn't play a major scale smoothly at all, for the life of me. I just sucked at all the basics. So I spent hours every day with my metronome at, and Eden, yeah, learn the modes. It's important. You'll use them all over the place. But learn what triads represent what modes. So if you're an F, learn like, okay, I'm going to play an F sharp triad over that. That represents the Phrygian mode. Or like A flat triad. Or A triad. Oh, that doesn't really hit one of the modes that I know. A G. Anyway, learn that stuff. It's important. Okay. So this is on my metronome app, I have a bunch of things saved. This is what I was practicing the other day, just kind of a fun tip. This is a tune that I wrote. In fact, check this out. It's fun. I haven't shown anybody this practice routine, but it's in 5/4, but at 500 beats per minute, and the tune goes like this. tune. I wasn't actually going to play that in its entirety, and I hope that some of you sat through it. Cool. But I figured I'd keep going because I have to learn it to play in Los Angeles, because I'm playing a show in Los Angeles on 1 week from yesterday, on the 14th at Sam First Jazz Club right by LAX with my band Spirit Fingers, and we're going to play that tune, and we're also going to record that tune this coming week in the studio. So that is the first thing. Now to regress, that's the first thing that I keep on my metronome right now that I'm practicing, but I have all these different settings, and one of them is quarter note, right? One of them is a quarter note with a missing beat. And so what I'll do now when I'm practicing is get that in my head, subdivide it in my head, so I'm thinking so notice I'm playing on the upbeat right before the downbeat. Ah shit, I messed it up because I can't talk. It's really hard to talk while I'm doing that. It requires a lot of concentration. But this is a timing exercise, and I do it every day still at 40 beats per minute. So I'm going to try to do it without explaining it so I can actually do it right and show you that it's possible to do it. so So I slowed down because I started thinking about what I was going to say next. It requires such concentration to be able to do that, but I do that every day in all my major scales, and then I double the tempo of it. Oh, somebody asked what tune that was. It's called Tune 50. I don't have it released yet, but if you look up my band Spirit Fingers, there are some videos of us playing that at recent shows when we were touring in the UK, because we've been playing it live. Yeah, but that's what I do now for 40 beats per minute. But when you're just learning your scales, make sure you're actually just set the metronome to a regular 40 beats per minute. You can just do it do it slowly. Make sure your hands are relaxed. Keeping time for you, but when you have to keep time on your own, then it gets harder. So make it so it's harder for you to keep time on your own by playing the one as an offbeat and have this being the next upbeat, like I was just doing before. And Eden, yes, you should learn all the seventh chords. That's very important. It's like the first thing you should learn after all your major chords. I'm using, it's called Pro Metronome. I think it's like $5 or something on the App Store. Yeah, Metronome, Pro Metronome. Cool. All right, guys, I gotta go because I gotta do some other stuff. This has been a great lesson. I really appreciate you all watching. Look out for Spirit Fingers. We're playing in LA and then some shows in the Midwest, in Chicago and at Purdue University. With Mike Mitchell on drums. Max Girl is on bass now for these upcoming shows, and Dario Chiazzolino, as always, is on guitar. If you like this lesson, share it, and if you're not already a patron of mine through my Patreon page, click that link and check it out, see if you want to support. Thank you very much, and I'll see you guys next time around.